world isn't run by weapons anymore, or energy, or money. It's run by little ones and zeros, little bits of data. It's all just electrons.
I don't care.
I don't expect other people to understand this, but I do expect you to understand this. There's a war out there, old friend. A world war. And it's not about who's got the most bullets. It's about who controls the information. What we see and hear, how we work, what we think. It's all about the information.
This scene from Robert Redford's movie Sneakers tells it all. There is a war out there. It's a war of information and disinformation. It's a war of half-truths and outright lies. It's a war for control. The control of your mind and your body. Americans are traditionally independent, very hard to control. But the architects of the New World Order have ways to force you into submission. First, through a well-orchestrated agenda including health care, financial security, safety from crime, and environmental issues, the public will be coerced into accepting a national identification card. It will be disguised in the cloak of benevolence, the government doing a great good deed for the people. Once the national identification card is in place, it will become the ID card. Without it, you'll not be able to make deposits or withdrawals at the bank, write a check at the supermarket, or even drive your automobile. Soon thereafter, legislation will require all citizens to carry their national ID card at all times.
Pete Wilson has a scary plan. Californians will all carry mandatory ID cards. Wilson wants doctors and nurses turning in patients to government bureaucrats. He wants teachers to turn in students who don't have a card, and neighbors to report on their neighbors. Brown says Wilson's ID cards are un-American. Wilson says, don't dare leave home without it.
Just how close to reality is a national ID card? How many years will it take the government to collect the information for its dossier on you? The fact is, everything is already in place.
It's the information age. We'd all be amazed if we knew how much information was gathered about the things we buy, the things we do.
Existing computer databases contain the names and ages of every member of your family, the size of your checking and savings accounts, the number and kinds of automobiles you drive, the state of your health, your credit rating, and your political and religious persuasions. And with the new breakthroughs in the world of high technology, these records are no longer confined to the sterile domain of the big mainframe computer. Today, a tiny piece of plastic that looks very similar to an ordinary credit card is capable of holding literally thousands of pages of information. It will contain your medical history, your x-rays, your credit rating, your driver's license, and will even let you make purchases without having to use cash or write a check. Your photograph, fingerprints, signature, and possibly even the retina pattern of your eye will be digitized directly into the card, making it impossible for anyone to use but you. Sound wonderful? You bet. In theory, it's a very good plan. But as with most things, there's a fly in the ointment. The question is, what other things is that little card capable of doing?
Again, we look at smart card technology, such as the AT&T card, where it is possible to partition the memory secretly so that you can separate that information and not have access to it unless you're authorized.
This means that your national ID card can carry your credit report, your record of traffic citations, information on any arrests or convictions, evaluate your attitude toward the state. In effect, this innocent-looking little piece of plastic will contain your life history, a profile that can be examined by any police officer or duly appointed authority. But you will never be allowed to see it. No longer do they need massive central computers or high-tech information lines. Any authority can simply slip your national ID card into his portable reader, and your records are instantly at his fingertips. Now the noose is tightened. Big Brother has you exactly where he wants you. Without your national identity card, you'll not be allowed to purchase anything. No food, no clothing. In effect, the marketplace will be closed. You can't get medical care for your family, and without a valid identity card, you won't be permitted to hold a job. You're entirely under the control of the state. But it doesn't stop at national boundaries. The real goal of the globalists is to have every person on this planet marked with an international ID number. A much more aggressive program than that of Nazi Germany during World War II. Every man, woman, and child will be identified with an electronic tattoo. It will be the mark of the New World Order.
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name.
Many people believe that when the book of Revelation, chapter 13, in the Bible, talks about the mark of the beast, it is talking about a tattoo. A visible mark, but actually the original Greek New Testament word was charagma, from the Greek word charasso, meaning to engrave. It is important to note that this noun charagma in Greek is accusative neuter singular and is preceded by the Greek preposition epi. Now this word in Greek means upon. Thus we are to understand that the mark is actually an inclusion made in the upper layer of the skin.
In the upper layer of skin will make a lot of sense as we further examine the current trends in high technology computerized identification. Whether you accept the prophecies of the Bible or not, the predictions of the end times written thousands of years ago come perilously close to matching precisely what is happening in the world today. With the development of the barcode some 15 years ago, suddenly it became practical to identify and price a wide variety of merchandise. Positive identification in the information age was now possible, and Hollywood had a field day with the new idea.
Identification. Request to leave the United States. Granted. Proceed.
Readers. Excuse my language, ma'am. You'd think they'd learn? Some never do. Ain't that the truth?
They first invaded our lives 15 years ago at the grocery checkout. Those zebra-like linear logos called barcodes. Parallel lines that replaced price tags.
People make mistakes. The barcode readers don't.
With a mistake rate of only 1 in 5 million, experts say, the barcode loaded with data linked to computers has revolutionized industry.
The 90s are here, and we've seen the light.
It shines on bars and stripes everywhere, from Preparation H and pineapple preserves to dirty laundry, lost luggage, library books, and video to go. Plasma banks barcode bags of blood to match donors with recipients. Hospitals scan patients' bracelets for medical history. Dallas commuters pass optical scanners at toll booths without stopping, while Arizona scientists glue tweezer-sized chips to the back of honeybees to track them in and out of the hive. Soon enough, experts predict a barcode on your license plate will permit police to track speeders and issue tickets without ever pulling you over.
The multi-billion-dollar-a-year identification business is growing so rapidly that even its executives have failed to understand where all that technology is leading.
It is the future. The future is here.
But don't its promoters find the incredibly powerful potential even a little bit frightening?
Not on my side, I guess, because I'm not being monitored, I guess.
Not the one being monitored? The fact is, we will all be monitored, but not by any mark as simple as a tattooed barcode. But just what form is the identifying mark likely to take? Let's review the various technologies capable of tracking the enormous population that will be forced under the heel of the New World Order. First and lowest on the list of possibilities is magnetic stripe technology, the system we're all so familiar with on the Visa, Master, and ATM cards. The magnetic stripe is the dark-colored stripe on the back of the card.
Magnetic stripe technology. It has 1,000 uses. Credit cards, bank machine cards, subway passes, ski lift tickets, production control cards. But whatever the application, the principle at work is the same. A single magnetic stripe can contain more than one track. Credit cards and banking cards, for example, follow an ISO standard that calls for 3 tracks with different information on each. Other kinds of cards can have fewer or more tracks on a single stripe, or they may have more than one stripe. At the center of the system is the magnetic stripe itself. It's made up of a kind of paint into which are mixed magnetic particles to form a slurry. The slurry is painted or extruded onto the card or badge or ticket, or it can be put onto a sheet of mylar, which is later applied to the card. While the slurry is still wet, it's passed through a magnetic field to align all the particles in the direction of the stripe. The slurry is then oven dried, locking the particles in place.
The new California driver's license is a good example of magnetic stripe technology put to use in the identification business.
California issues over 30,000 driver's licenses and ID cards per day, and that number is increasing at a rate of 8% per year. To handle the rapidly increasing volume of transactions, the California Department of Motor Vehicles has taken a leadership role in the utilization of photo identification technologies.
In my previous position, I was the director of the Department of Motor Vehicles, and during my tenure there, I had an opportunity to bring into completion and implementation a new form of driver's license in California, which basically allowed many of the old photographic components of the driver's license to be computerized, allowing the image to be captured in a digital base, the signature digitized, and the driver's license moving from basically a piece of polyester paper to a credit card style driver's license with a magnetic strip attached to the back of it with data encoded on it. We found that its principal use was not to demonstrate that you've been awarded the privilege to drive a vehicle in California, but its principal use was really for identification. A lot of the information on the driver's license is captured in the process of conducting a retail transaction, issuing a traffic citation, and clearly we ought to take advantage of technology. In order to build the integrity of our records, we need to ensure that there's accuracy at the point where the information is captured. Certainly, by reading a magnetic strip, you increase the accuracy much more than just copying the information off the face of the license. Short term, we saw it as convenience, saving keystrokes, improving accuracy. Long term, we look at many of the components that went into the driver's license, the digitized imaging, the photograph in a digitized base, the signature in a digitized base, is providing much more flexibility and in a better infrastructure to deal with that. We can look at the image, we can compare signatures. We can transmit images where there's some question about a person's identity. All these things are important identification components of the driver's license.
As Pierce said, the Department of Motor Vehicles has advanced far beyond its original objective of ensuring that those who drive are qualified to do so. Today, by their own admission, they're in the identification business. With a staff of more than 39,000 employees and a budget at well over $6 billion, they are compiling digitized photograph, fingerprint, and signature records on Californians at a rate of more than 30,000 a day. Identification is positive, and someday soon, this giant California database will become part of the worldwide identification system via the electronic superhighway. You're not being forced into the databases, but you will volunteer if you wish to participate in the activities that have become so necessary to everyday life, like driving your car. The magnetic stripe technology currently used by the California Department of Motor Vehicles is capable of storing little more than the information already printed on the license, a mere pittance of what authorities would like it to hold. And the cost per character is some 20 times higher than the newer IC chip smart card technology.
Magnetic stripes can typically store about 80 characters of information that would cost 30 or 40 cents. Beyond storage of magnetic stripes, you need to go to a smart card. The typical cost for a smart card to give you the capability of storing 2,000 characters of information might be $2. We've got 2,000 characters of information for $2. We have 80 characters of information for about 30 or 40 cents.
So a smart card, for our definition of a smart card is a device that's the same form factor as a credit card, which not only has memory, but also has a computer chip located with that memory. And it is the presence of that computer chip which enables the card to execute software which encodes and decodes information.
Smart cards are quite often called contact cards because a reader-writer or a machine that is capable of inputting data and outputting data from the card actually makes contact with the surface of the chip module in order to pass data back and forth from the read-writer to the card. And these read-writers, of course, could be systems that are utilized by the consumer, for example, a telephone debit card. In this case, the read-writer would be embedded in the telephone system or whatever system is utilized for that particular card.
I see the IC chip card as a big advantage. In the U.S., they're not used as much, primarily because of the mag stripe industry, which has been with us probably 50 years. The mag stripe is susceptible to fraud, and all the major banks are looking at the IC chip card as a way to prevent that fraud.
You'll see multiple applications on a given card, such as possibly MasterCard, Visa, and some electronic purse functions residing on the same card, such that you can download money via your personal computer or a terminal without ever using cash. You can have a cashless ATM in your own house.
It's really not possible to predict where we're going to be in 100 years from now, but it is easy to predict that within the next 10 years, we will have the electronic purse where you can walk up to the ATM machine and load basically your smart card purse with money, and you can spend that money in retail stores anywhere you want without having to carry any cash with you.
Smart cards are an ideal monetary medium for the fast-approaching cashless society. But with magstripe technology so firmly entrenched, just how will the changeover be accomplished?
It's going to be one of those quiet revolutions that Mr. and Mrs. America is going to open up an envelope someday from MasterCard or Visa or Discover Card or whoever it might be from their bank, and either their credit card or their ATM card is going to have a little gold spot on it. It's going to have instructions on how to use it.
It might not only be a bank debit card, but it also could have identification information. It could have medical records stored on this card. There are many, many uses.
France pioneered the smart card when they introduced their national telephone debit card over a decade ago.
This original telephone application has spread, and now we're seeing debit cards for other applications as well. The ATM cards in Germany are going to be equipped with a chip as well as a mag stripe for the time being, and in the long run might be replaced completely by a chip card based on secure memory. The other application that has evolved in Germany is health card, a patient data health card.
There are 80 million German national health cards that are being produced with a smart chip embedded in the plastic card. And of this 80 million, 70% of those cards are being manufactured using the Meinensiegel & Co. high-volume production equipment.
this version really?
The chip module is made of silicone die that you probably are familiar with as having made the computer technology possible today. The silicone die is implanted with millions of transistors that allow the very sophisticated electronics technology that we have today. And these small chips are much smaller than the size of your finger. And the die are wire bonded to the external contacts of the chip module that is used to transfer data in and out of the card.
It's interesting to note that the most sophisticated smart cards are actually microprocessors. They're PCs that you actually can carry in your wallet or on your person. So it's what I call the ultimate distributed processing. It's the PC you carry in your wallet.
So it not only has memory to hold data, what really makes it smart is the fact that it has the microprocessor brains, which controls logic functions, etc., much like a personal computer that we're all familiar with today.
Dr. Melvin Salveson is credited with having originated the MasterCard, the first step toward the cashless society.
We needed an electronic system that would permit each individual to access his resources wherever they may be, at one or more banks. And when I developed the system for what is now the MasterCard system, that's what I did. I developed a system so that any individual in the United States with one piece of plastic could access his account at any bank where he may have his resources and use that card at any merchant or other seller in the United States.
Dr. Salverson's latest idea is pushing us even closer toward a cashless system.
The one-card system makes it possible to move rapidly to the cashless society because now with just one card, you can access not only your Visa, your MasterCard, your American Express, or any other account, including your checking account, but you can access all of these and more with just one card.
While a true cashless society may still be several years away, the preliminary steps are in place today.
Working with both national and international companies, Smart Card Technologies has developed its own unattended cashless payment system. With the value station, the user simply selects the buy card option on the front panel. Then the easy-to-read display prompts them to insert the proper denomination of cash, and the card is quickly delivered to them. With Smart Card Technologies' cashless payment system, users can make purchases 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Making a purchase is simple and quick. When the smart card is inserted into the card slot, the microprocessor-based controller deducts the value of the sale from the card and displays the remaining card balance. The convenience of not having to have the correct change has resulted in increased sales wherever cashless payment systems have been used. Additional value can be added to the card in order to make more purchases with your debit card. This value must be added to the card by making a cash-to-card deposit. When the card is inserted in the Smart Card Technologies value station, the current card balance is displayed. When cash is deposited into the station, the value on the card is increased to the new balance. The new value is stored directly on the card, and the card is now ready for use. Products such as our Smart Card postage stamp machines can be accessed from totally unattended and automated stations. This recharging feature also allows unattended access to other card payment products, such as the European telephone smart card systems.
For banking, the most basic use of Smart Card is as an electronic checkbook or cash card, replacing coins, bills, and checks. And that's just the beginning.
In banking, we're working with a ATM network on the East Coast called MAC. And next year, MAC will be testing in Delaware a system whereby their standard ATM card will contain a chip, and the consumer will be able to go to an ATM, transfer money from their checking or savings account, and then use that card in a variety of retail establishments such as fast food, gasoline, cleaners, laundry, even to buy a newspaper. In the telecommunications area, we're seeing two major developments. One in the prepaid telephone card that right now is being pioneered by US West in Seattle, Washington. and also in an area that internationally is called GSM, or Global System for Mobile Telecommunications, which here in the U.S. is called PCS, or Personal Communication Services.
I travel a lot. I don't like carrying large sums of money. That's why I use credit cards, but there are some areas where you can't use credit cards. And Africa is where I was, is one of them. It's pretty much a cash society. So the smart card to me presents a way of me carrying money without anybody knowing how much money.
Even though the smart card offers genuine advantages, the idea gives many Americans a queasy feeling.
A great number of people in the general public are what we would call technophobes. That is, they're generally distrustful of any technology or advances in technology that they don't truly understand, don't understand either how it works or what the implications are. And people are justifiably reserved in not granting access to their personal possessions, their personal information to entities that they don't know either who's doing it or the consequences of doing it.
The technology right now, you essentially could put your whole payroll check on that chip and carry it around with you in your pocket. That's not what the banks are going to do. What they're probably going to do is make what they call a purse, where you'd be able to carry limited amounts, probably no more than $20, maybe $100. That way, I think people would try it out. They'd use it with low sums, maybe $5 or $10. And once they get comfortable with that, the leap to putting large sums of money on it is probably not that far away.
While the smart card industry in the United States is still in its infancy, its expansion is exponential.
Right now, the smart card industry is growing at a tremendous pace. Our own company is growing at a rate of about 50% a year, which I think reflects the overall industry growth. Last year, industry sources indicate that the worldwide consumption of smart cards was about 300 million. At a 50% growth rate, that puts it at about 450 million for 1994. And by 1996, at the same growth rate, we will see a billion card market worldwide. It could easily be 2 billion by the year 2000.
The laser or optical card incorporates an entirely different technology. It does not process information the way a chip card does, but instead is simply a huge database. The big push for the optical card is in the fields of healthcare and social services.
Imagine being able to carry around your entire medical history on a piece of plastic the size of a credit card. Advancing technology will soon make that a reality.
The card contains a shiny optical strip that can retain up to 2,000 typed pages of information. Social services can store the user's address, list of family members, and a complete medical history. That means clients can use the card for doctor care, to get benefits, and any other services for which public assistance recipients are eligible. Delaware Card 1 will also serve as a debit card.
2,000 pages. That's a lot of information. It would take a stack of ordinary credit cards nearly as high as a telephone pole to hold the same amount of data contained in a single laser card.
This is a familiar sight in any radiology department. It's called the film room. Stored here is 1.5 years worth of x-ray film, 32,000 sheets in all. But one day, rooms like this one may be obsolete.
Instead of being stacked on shelves, important x-ray images can now be kept on a piece of plastic the size of a credit card. Mammograms, lab test results, everything may one day be stored on the cards. The makers of the medical image card say in the long run, the system will save money for the healthcare provider while giving patients more control when it comes to their health.
Medical records, thousands of them. And this is only a small part of all of the records that have to be kept on file here at the West London Hospital. Now, some of them, as you can see, are fairly slim, but others can be pretty bulky. There's a lot of relevant information about the patient in this file, but if a trial which is taking place in this hospital proves to be successful, then all the information in this file will be recorded onto this small plastic card. The compact disc player. The music on this compact disc is stored in the form of minute holes, creating areas of light and dark. And it's these patterns which the player reads, clean patterns which are free from the distortions normally associated with other recording methods. The optical memory card works on a similar principle, but there is one vital difference. With the compact disc that you buy for your player, you can't add another tune. On the other hand, with the optical memory card, you can add more information. And it's that and its convenient size that makes it ideal for so many applications. Information is put onto the golden surface of the optical memory card by a laser, which burns holes in areas measuring no more than 5/1000ths of a millimeter in diameter. It can also store high-resolution pictures. And because it has such a high storage capacity, it could even store fingerprints, the pattern on the retina of the eye, or a voice print, each a unique personal identifier. It has no batteries to go flat, no electric circuitry to go wrong. It's a passive media. And because it's a passive media, it'll keep its information, even if it's passed through an X-ray or some other electromagnetic field. But although the information on an optical memory card cannot be removed, it can be added to, and that is very important. It means that you can have a card which receives some information during manufacture, leaving space for more specific information to be added later. As the information in the system increases, so the card automatically updates itself. Then all of your medical records could be kept on this single card for life.
As long as we're living in a democracy under a benevolent government, the laser card could make our lives a whole lot better. And that's exactly how the idea is being sold to us.
The Eltrax card system was designed to streamline the long, tedious question and answer sessions at the admitting desk. Information on the card typically includes demographics, next of kin, guarantor, insurance, hospital-specific data, and more. The second component of the system is the Eltrax reader-writer. It hooks right into your present computer system, just like your printer or modem. Once it's hooked up to your system, the reader-writer allows you to program information onto the card, as well as read the information when a patient checks in. Any information displayed from the card can be changed and updated, so your hospital records and the card always remain current.
I like everything about it. I've been in the hospital a couple of times, and all you have to do is just show your card, and you're in. In any other hospital, I've been in others, and you just sit and wait until they can take care of you. And sometimes you're in need of help. It's quick action. You know, you get action when you need it. And at our age, we need it.
One has to remember what all medicines I'm on and what needs to be refilled, because the doctor's going to have it right there in front of them on the screen.
But whether it's a chip, optical, or magnetic card, all work hand in hand with a positive identification technique called biometrics.
Biometrics are a grouping of devices which identify people by a unique characteristic, whether that be a physical characteristic or an actual behavioral characteristic. Physical characteristics involve things such as fingerprints and retinal scan, also hand geometry, which is what Recognition Systems is a characteristic that we currently look at. Behavioral capabilities are things that you learn, for example, such as your signature. Your voice is actually learned over time. And each of these things is unique to an individual, and a biometric device is able to determine the uniqueness about that individual characteristic to identify the individual that is requesting access, or is to utilize a card, or to just get into a building, whatever the case is. Our system is able to identify the unique aspects of an individual's hand to an accuracy of 99.9%. To use the system, you enter your ID number. We'll ask you to place your hand. And if you're who you say you are, you're verified. If someone else was to attempt to use my ID number or a card, the system will automatically reject them because it's not me. And you can see the system says try again. The INSPASS program uses hand geometry to verify people coming into the United States through an automated process. Rather than typically going up to a immigrations officer, they now go to a machine that looks very similar to an ATM. It's used by frequent travelers, people who are currently coming into the country or leaving the country and coming back in more than 3 times a year.
Imagine a time when travelers to this country will be screened and identified by a scanning system so sophisticated it only takes a touch of one's hand.
Welcome, traveler. Before proceeding, please step forward and place your hand on the biometric recognition sphere. You may now enter.
It sounds like something out of a science fiction movie. Well, science it is, but fiction, not anymore. You are looking at the inner workings of a remarkable new system known as INSPASS. Developed by the Immigration and Naturalization Service, PASS stands for Passenger Accelerated Service System. INSPASS, as its name implies, is designed to speed up the screening of arriving travelers without compromising the integrity or security of the inspection process. Travelers with INSPASS don't have to wait in these lines. They go directly to a specially designated lane with an INSPASS stand, like this one. Designed to resemble an automated teller machine, the INSPASS stand has a slot for travelers to insert their INSPASS cards. Next, members carefully place their fingers against a set of positioning pins on the screen of the biometric hand scanner. Within seconds, the scanner records a complex, 3-dimensional measurement of each traveler's hand. Those calculations are compared to the information stored on travelers' INSPASS cards. If the data matches, travelers enter their flight information on the keypad. That information, together with the biographical data stored on the INSPASS card, is used to generate an entry document. If for some reason the information on the traveler's INSPASS card and the image recorded by the hand scanner don't match, the system will immediately alert a nearby inspector.
You have to remember that although they go through an automated inspections process, that their name is still vetted against the database of known and suspected terrorists or individuals we don't want in the United States. So the security features that we wanted are built into the system.
With the emerging global economy, the public is on the move more than ever before. By freeing up crucial inspections personnel, INSPASS enables the agency to focus more attention on high-risk travelers. That category could include everything from wanted criminals to suspected terrorists. With the installation of INSPASS, the United States becomes the first country in the world to experiment with hand biometrics as a means for screening arriving travelers. But with all of the breakthroughs in biometric technology, INSPASS will likely be just the beginning.
Fingerprint technology is another part of biometrics, and a system called AFIS has leapt from law enforcement into everyday life.
AFIS is an acronym, AFIS, which stands for Automated Fingerprint Identification Systems. And it's a means by which a fingerprint and the structure, that is the friction, what's referred to as friction skin, the features of the friction skin, the ending ridges and the bifurcations are plotted, and the fingerprint is basically digitized. It's turned into a number, if you will. And then with searching algorithms, a known fingerprint database can be constructed against which you can conduct searches by entering in an unknown fingerprint. The degree of accuracy of AFIS systems has proved to be quite successful. But I think you could safely predict by the turn of the century, you'll see AFIS technologies bleeding their way into applications throughout our lives that you never would have imagined. Certainly ATM machine applications in governing access to computer systems through physical doorways, perhaps even on the home shopping network, whereby in addition to having a cable box, you'll have a fingerprint reader which will not only gain access to certain bits of information, but in turn will authorize the transaction, meaning that the system has checked and verified that you have a good credit balance and can afford the items that you want to buy. Those kinds of applications I don't think are too far down the road. I say all that with the caveat that we as a society are going to have to at some point address the concerns of the invasion of privacy issue, and that will work its way out eventually. I share those concerns, and I think that that's a challenge that will be a healthy one to deal with.
The biochip, a tiny injectable glass-encapsulated rice grain-sized microchip, is one of the most frightening and controversial of the marking devices. In the past 5 years, thousands of animals have been implanted with these microchips.
If a lost pet is not returned to its owner or adopted by a new owner, they're either put down or claimed for research. But now there's a solution, the AnaCare system. Your local veterinarian vaccinates your pet against being lost with a small identification microchip. Our national network of veterinary professionals, animal shelters, and animal control agencies scan all lost pets. Then one quick call to the database will locate the pet owner quickly. The AnaCare microchip gives each pet an exclusive identification number. A one-time fee provides lifetime registration in a national database. Local veterinarians are microchipping family pets, hunting dogs, show dogs, and cats. Already more than 2 million pets enjoy the benefit of microchip technology. Don't let your pet be among the 20 million that won't make it home.
This fascinating system is based on the reading of radio frequencies from a minute microchip implanted in the animal. In the past 4 years, thousands of animals have been implanted with microchips.
The implantation technique in the dog and cat is no different than a routine immunization for distemper or other infectious diseases.
An encapsulated microchip comes to the veterinarian inside a needle in a sterilized package ready for insertion. A 10-digit alphanumeric code is burned into the memory of this microchip.
The recommended location in the dog and cat is the base of the neck between the shoulder blades along the midline of the body. We then go ahead and implant the chip subcutaneously. We then scan afterwards and again compare and validate that the chip matches the registration. Now the registration is designed to contain enough information to readily aid in the recovery of a lost or stray animal. It has the veterinarian's name, phone number, location, the owner's name, phone number, location, plus third-party information if that's pertinent. It also contains additional information such as tattoos, whether there's pet insurance, other information that would aid in the recovery or return of a lost or strayed animal.
It's basically no more painful than a routine inoculation.
Sounds great for animals, but look who they're talking about injecting with a biochip now.
Veterinarians think the concept could eventually be used as a way of identifying children.
I don't know if they would have to do special studies for the human population, but I think it's feasible.
There's even talk about injecting newborn babies before they're allowed to leave the hospital. While some people are ready to accept this idea, others are skeptical even about having it done to their pets.
Scrappy, the Maltese's master, had hesitations about going high-tech. So did the owners of 2 canines named Shaka and Juice.
I don't know about putting something inside my dog. I don't know.
GM Hughes has a very highly automated overseas facility for manufacturing glass-encapsulated radio frequency transponders. These are passive devices requiring no internal power supply to operate.
Radio frequency identification devices are designed to have long life. As a result, the lifetime of these things is essentially or virtually unlimited. When you get to the mathematical factors of what is the likely life of these devices, mean time between failures stack up into the 175 to 250-year lifespan.
RFID, or radio frequency identification devices, fall basically into 3 frequency operating ranges: low, medium, and high. The medium frequency is the least used because of various governmental restrictions around the world.
High-frequency tags are most commonly found in automotive toll collection applications, rail car and intermodal container applications, whereas the low-frequency tags are found in animal identification, personnel access control systems, many factory automation tags, pallet identification, asset identification applications, that sort of thing. High-frequency tags that can read 200 feet are not uncommon at all. High-frequency tags that can read a quarter of a mile, for instance, do exist, although they're expensive. Passive tags, I have seen passive tags that can read 200 feet. So low-frequency devices especially, and by low frequency, I'm talking about things in the 125 kilohertz range, will read through the body. And that means then they read through flesh, blood, bone, skin, and therefore the entire concept of implanting animals with radio frequency identification tags was conceived many years ago.
For more than 10 years, the military has been investigating the possibility of replacing the GI's dog tag with a smart card or other type of RFID transponder. But there is a hitch.
Notably that of if you have a device containing a substantial amount of information on a GI, on a battlefield, and then that device and or the GI associated with it fall into the hands of the enemy, you've now transmitted a tremendous amount of data, possibly to that enemy in a combat situation. We're not part of a military program to implant tags in humans. In fact, we are not part of any program to implant tags in humans. But a glass-encapsulated animal tag only begs the question of the definition of what type of animal, and if that definition is a mammal, certainly it would include man. Are there humans running around somewhere on the globe with tags, RFID tags implanted in them? Yes, absolutely conclusively so.
At least 6 million medical devices a year are implanted in human beings, everything from vascular grafts to breast implants. The United States Food and Drug Administration has implemented a new ruling called the Safe Medical Device Registration Act of 1994. This act mandates that all prosthetic medical devices to be put into human beings must be tracked from the time of manufacture through implantation and possible eventual removal. You'll never guess where a radio frequency identification device is shown up now, in a new type of breast implant. In order to comply with the Safe Medical Device Registration Act, the breast implant contains a Hughes RFID chip. It is currently being tested in 100 women in Britain, Italy, and Germany.
The RFID device, which is actually physically attached to the breast implant itself. A really interesting aspect of that is that once the breast implant is implanted in the patient, the radio frequency transponder can be read after implantation. And so that many years following the implantation of this device, that registration number can be read by the patient going to a hospital or a doctor that has a reading device. Inside this circular area is perhaps very hard to see, but a slight line of outline here of a linear device, and that is the radio frequency transponder that's been associated with the breast implant insert itself at the time of manufacture.
Radio frequency ID is positive identification when an RFID chip is implanted in the human body. But by linking it with biometrics, identification is just as certain even when used as an external tag. The U.S. government proved that in the Caribbean with a program they call Deployable Mass Population Identification and Tracking System. As the Coast Guard rescued wave after wave of Haitian refugees from the angry seas, identification and processing became a major problem. Before the flood of humanity began to slack off, more than 50,000 Cuban and Haitian refugees had been processed at the Navy base at Guantanamo Bay. Identification of the refugees originally was accomplished with a simple hospital-type plastic bracelet with a slip-in identification card, but that quickly proved unsatisfactory.
They needed to find a way that they could process these people much faster, give them a much better stay while they were there. So we got into the development of the electronic identification bracelet, which is basically an identification card. Each number was unique. They could process them very quickly electronically. As I stated, it only takes 39 milliseconds to scan and pick up the unique ID number. You could process people very, very rapidly.
In its final form, the Deployable Mass Population Identification and Tracking System consisted of an electronic RFID transponder bracelet, a digitizing camera, and a digital fingerprinting system, all linked to a computer database.
That microchip number that was in the electronic identification bracelet would also correspond in their computer database with the digital fingerprint system. So therefore they had a backup at all times if a bracelet were to be for some reason fail, which the possibility of that is unlikely, less than 1 in 100 billion. But if that were to happen, they could always trace the individual as to the proper identification by the electronic fingerprint system.
The radio frequency identification bracelet is constructed of a highly durable nylon and looks much like a waterproof wristwatch.
This is the electronic ID bracelet, which is very similar to a waterproof watch. The electronic device that is inserted into the bracelet consists of an integrated circuit which is attached to an antenna to receive the signal. It is simply inserted into the top of the disc, and then we have sonically weld another piece of nylon to the top of that to give it hermetic seal and totally waterproof.
The Navy at Guantanamo Bay has more than 150 scanners to read the identification bracelets. The scanners will input the refugee's unique 9-digit ID number directly to a computer through an RS-232 port. The refugees are scanned often, when they need medical services, when they are transferred between camps, when they fill out questionnaires. Refugee organizations like the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and the Organization for Refugees also use scanners to facilitate their interviews. In order to keep the electronic identification bracelet from being removed, it was secured around the refugee's right wrist with a pop rivet. In the case of children with small wrists, it was pop riveted around their ankle. Just what did the refugees think about their identifying mark? The reaction was mixed. Some refugees say they actually like wearing the bracelet, feeling they were now being taken seriously, were now part of the system. Others wore it because without it they could not receive medical attention and other necessities. And one was wisely bothered because in the Bible, Revelation 13:16 speaks of how we will all be marked in the right hand with the number of the beast. But like it or not, all were forced to wear it. The electronic identification system at Guantanamo Bay was so successful that it is now being tested in the United States for border control by the Department of Justice and Immigration. The Deployable Mass Identification and Tracking System was one of the first major programs to cross the controversial line and actually tag human beings electronically. For those refugees rewarded with immigration status, it was a blessing. But for those who were denied entry, the euphoria of being part of the system suddenly turned bitter. They did everything they could to remove their mark. Some made crude knives in an attempt to cut the bracelet off. Others, in desperation, tried to chew it off, but to no avail. They were marked men. Their digitized fingerprints and photographs in the computer left them no escape. The official reaction to their unhappiness? A recommendation that the plastic bracelets be reinforced with steel wire, making it even more difficult to cut or chew. But don't feel too badly for the refugees. We too are marked. Our digitized fingerprint, retina scan, or hand geometry pattern will permit us to buy the food and services we need if we have the mark. Television cameras on street corners will ensure that we obey all rules. Traffic violations will be cited by machines, and our vehicles will be tracked by government satellites orbiting overhead. Fiber optic cables being installed at this very moment will let Big Brother spy on us right in our own homes. Very soon, the cashless society will be fully upon us, and our paychecks will be entered directly into the smart cards we will carry in our pockets. The smart card chip will be reduced in size, then become part of the injectable biochip. It will be our electronic purse, our new money. Like our pets, we will be permanently marked, effectively owned by the state. You can run, but you cannot hide.
The book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 10 and 11, warns us that the end nears, nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes in many places. There'll be famines, pestilences. There are fearful sights that are going to come out of the heavens. Mark chapter 13, verse 28 and 29, advises us to learn the parable of the fig tree. It says, when her branch is tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So in the same way, when you see these things come to pass, know that it is near, even at the door. Revelation chapter 1, verse 3 tells us to pay attention to the prophecies. The Bible says, blessed is he that reads and hears the word of the prophecy and keeps those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. Despite every attack, the Bible is still the world's best-selling book. It has been translated into more than 1,400 languages, and time after time, its prophecies have been proven 100% accurate. Check it out for yourself. Be prepared. The time is at hand.
The water's coming out to the back room. Some pipes came loose or something, and hot water's
Okay, sir, the fire department does not handle that. You'll have to go out and turn the water off at the main.
In our lifetime, there have certainly been more earthquakes than ever before in the history of the world. Famine and disease are rampant. Nation has risen against nation in tragic war, and kingdom fights kingdom in civil battle. Technology in itself is neither good nor evil. But it is technology that is ushering in the cashless society and the one world government.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
Technology is power, and sooner or later, total power will corrupt totally, bringing pain, suffering, and enslavement.
So wie ihr in stolzer Ergebenheit diesem Deutschland Dienst wird heute Deutschland in stolzer Freude seine Söhne in euch marschieren sehen.
Heed the warning of the scriptures and be alert, for the technology is at hand to brand each and every one of us with the mark of the New World Order.